think the brand of cricket that we've played has really touched a lot of people, and
I couldn't ask for a better team, to be honest. There,
and we'll give it everything we possibly got.
I believe if we play our best, we can beat New Zealand tomorrow.
Is this the final you wanted?
Yep.
Until the final.
It's been the greatest time of our lives.
It's not emotion, it's skill that helps you win.
Both teams possess match winners throughout their squad.
I think the team's ready.
All right, so now let's go across live to Boria Majumdar, who's joining us from Melbourne. Boria, are we expecting a full house at MCG today?
Absolutely, Himanshu. You can see behind me, if Manish can show you, for the last couple of hours, there were no trams, there were no taxis. There's absolutely nothing flying in this city today. It's all cricket. It's a sea of blue, it's a sea of gold. I'm sorry, Andrew. It's a sea of gold and a lot of black cap support as well. But this is fantastic atmosphere. 100,000 people, 95 to 100,000 Himanshu at the MCG. Beautiful day, beautiful weather. Two really good sides, the two best sides of this World Cup, playing in this World Cup final. Really good spectacle on the cards. May the best team win, but as far as I'm concerned, I'll go with Australia because it's home conditions, and with Michael Clarke saying it's his last game, I'd want him to sign off on a high.
Boria, are we also expecting the Aussie fans to outnumber the Kiwi fans by a huge margin? And of course, have you also had the opportunity to take a look at the pitch or the conditions here, and who would they favour?
I had a chat with Michael Clarke about the pitch yesterday, and he said it's a beautiful, good batting wicket. He said the outfield is lightning fast, the wicket is perfect, the stadium looks immaculate. I'm quoting Michael Clarke here. It looks absolutely perfect as far as the wicket and the stadium goes. So make no mistake, it'll be a cracker of a contest. And yes, Australian fans by far outnumber. Mr. Mundra is still there. I mean, India is not there, but they are still there. Everyone misses India. There are some Indian jerseys, Indian blue, Indian flags around as well. But it's an Australia-New Zealand day, and by far the golden, outnumber the black caps. But it'll be some contest, Himanshu, and it'll be one heck of a World Cup final.
Well, quite clearly, Boria, I can see that going by the fans standing next to you. It's Australia versus the rest of the world when it comes to the support and the cheering, it seems. Nikhil, let me start with you here, since Andrew is not here right now, and we're expecting him shortly in the show. Australia are on a 14-match unbeaten streak at home, and although both teams are looking equally strong, do you think the home advantage would make Australia the favourites in this game?
I'd hope so, because they know the conditions pretty well. They know the size of the ground, how you can use the size of the ground. They've got the quicks. Short pitch stuff. It's no more a 60-meter boundary. When New Zealand, even the top edges were going for 6. This is a different ball game altogether. You need to clear about 90 to 100 meters when you're looking to pull the ball. And Australians are going to use that. Good batting conditions. If the ball doesn't swing, Himanshu, for the New Zealand bowlers, I think it'll get difficult for them. Because their main strength has been to get that ball to swing in the early in the innings.
In fact, Nikhil, in New Zealand, there you have it on your video wall as well. New Zealand have won the toss and they will be batting first in this game. Nikhil, do you agree with that decision?
Absolutely. It's a big final. You want to go out there, win the toss, put runs on board, and put some pressure on the opposition. Now it'll be all up to Stark, Johnson, Hazelwood. If McCullum, goes out there and fires, gets a good enough start, I think now the Australians would be under pressure. Now we'll have to see their exceptional talent to go out there and put, try and not allow the New Zealand side to get away, Himanshu, to chase. Now this game is going to get tested. Otherwise, like the India semi-final, they won the toss and they just ran away with the game. So I'm happy to enjoy the spectacle. This is the actual talent that we'll get to see from the Australian boys.
Let's also talk to Boria Majumdar once again. Boria, New Zealand winning the toss and electing to bat first on this pitch. What sort of a total are we expecting that will really make matters difficult for Australia, who are now going to be chasing?
First things first, Himanshu, I entirely agree with Nikhil. I mean, Nikhil summed it up quite beautifully there. This sets it up. I mean, had it been an Australia toss win like what we had seen in Sydney, they would have run away with it. Australian home conditions, they'd have killed the match. But now it's set up. Brendan McCullum, Corey Anderson, Grant Elliott, Ross Taylor, Martin Guptill. If they get 300, then the Australian batting lineup will be under pressure. It will be a sea of gold. 300 is a par score at the MCG. Good batting deck, lightning fast outfield, fantastic day. No chance of rain, nothing like that. New Zealand winning the toss sets the World Cup final up quite beautifully as far as I'm concerned. Australia still favourites, maybe a Mitchell Starc spell at the top of the order, couple of wickets and things will change, but the toss win for New Zealand has set it up quite wonderfully.
Nikhil, very interesting comments that we heard from Matthew Hayden. Some of the local media reports quoting him saying that the Kiwis will struggle with the size of the MCG. Do you agree to an extent with that?
Well, I guess they've been playing all their games, back home in New Zealand where the grounds are pretty small. Like, that's what I said, 60 yards, 65 yards. It's a different ball game. When anything went into the gap, they were getting 4. Now at the MCG, anything goes in the gap, they'll probably get 2s. They'll need to run hard, and when you're running enough amount of 2s, that also gets you tired as well. So, you're not getting the boundaries that you're so used to back home. And like I said, the ball's not swinging. It's going to be a different brand of cricket. I'm sure they're mentally prepared because they've played enough at the Melbourne as well, but it's going to be a completely different brand of cricket. Well, I would like to ask Boria, if he's still with us, Himanshu, that he's there, he's seen the conditions. Do you think, Boria, the ball's going to swing in the evening under lights? That might just help the New Zealand bowlers.
Nikhil, it's not swung much. I mean, Shami's got the ball to swing in the matches that India has played here at the MCG. It will remain a good batting wicket. I had the opportunity to speak to a number of players yesterday at the Langham Hotel. Everybody expects the conditions to remain the same. Not much of a difference batting first, batting second. Maybe the pressure of runs. If New Zealand get 300 plus, Australia will be under pressure chasing. It's a World Cup final. It's the biggest match for many of these people, except Michael Clarke, Shane Watson and Mitchell Johnson. Not many have the experience of playing a big World Cup final like this. So that might be an influence. But other than that, I mean, change in conditions, I don't expect major change in conditions to happen at all.
Nikhil, interestingly, I was going through some stats last night and I dug out something interesting. Australia have a 14-4 record against New Zealand at MCG and a 5-0 record against New Zealand in finals at MCG. That's an incredible statistic.
That's phenomenal. But the interesting stat in that would be how many times has Australia won the toss, and batted first. Each time, if you win the toss, you put runs on board, the side chasing. Always add another 30-40 runs because of the kind of pressure that you got. You need a good enough start. You then need to try and get a very clinical sort of chase. It's a different ball game altogether. But Australia, we all know, is a better side. But now that they've lost the toss, things have got more interesting. To me, this is how I would want to see the World Cup final, where both teams are out there showcasing their talent. New Zealand didn't have their noses ahead in terms of the two sides, but now that they won the toss, they're getting to use the best of the batting conditions. If they put a decent enough total, it will test Australia. Make no mistake about it.
Right. Boria, of course, the big battle is between Australia and New Zealand, but which are the smaller key battles within this match that you're expecting that will probably add more spice to this big encounter?
The biggest has to be Brendan McCullum v Michael Clarke. I mean, how does Michael Clarke handle Brendan McCullum at the top of the order as a batsman? And then what strategies, both these captains, what technical, both are astute captains. Trent Boult versus Mitchell Starc. It's a huge battle. I mean, these two have been the stars of this World Cup. Again, Brendan McCullum versus Dave Warner. Aaron Finch versus Martin Guptill. I mean, there are mini battles here. Tim Southee versus Mitchell Johnson. All of these battles will influence the outcome of the game, but the biggest of these mini battles has to be Michael Clarke versus Brendan McCullum. How does Clarke, farewell game, biggest match of his life, World Cup final, can he sign off on a high on home soil with that World Cup trophy? How does he handle Brendan McCullum?
Nikhil, you heard what Boria had to say. I'm sure Michael Clarke would be wishing for a perfect farewell today.
Well, absolutely. Now that he's, decided that he's not going to be playing any more one-day international cricket, World Cup final, gets to captain. He can also be called a world champion if he goes out there and wins. His side, he himself, his captaincy, everybody would get tested. Make no mistake about it, Himanshu. But I guess this is also not just about skill, what he said in that press conference. It's also about emotions and how you can put a check on yourself as well. Don't get carried away with the big occasion. Look to do the small things right and you'll carve a bigger picture.
In fact, Nikhil, one very interesting battle that I'm looking forward to watching myself in this match is now that New Zealand have won the toss and they're going to be batting first, is Brendan McCullum versus Mitchell Starc. That would clearly be one of the bigger battles within this big battle. No?
That's the biggest battle, Himanshu. You know, the first, say, 8-9 overs, 4 from Mitchell Starc and 4 from Mitchell Johnson or Hazelwood, whoever gets the new ball. Those first 8 overs will decipher which way the game is going to go. If Australia go out, get a couple of wickets, the middle order gets exposed to the new ball, it's a different ball game. New Zealand, on the other hand, don't lose a wicket in the first 8 overs. You know, you can bet your bottom dollar that Australia would be looking to chase a big, big total.
All right, hold on to those thoughts, Nikhil. I'll come back to you in a bit. All right, let's now listen into what the two captains had to say in the lead up to the match.
It's been the greatest time of our lives. It's been an amazing trip. We dreamed right at the start, and to now give ourselves a 50-50 chance in the final is an amazing achievement.
I think the guys are ready to play. Like I said after the last game, mentally we're ready for this final. Physically we've got another day to recover or train and get what you need to be right for tomorrow. But I think the team's ready.
Is this the final you wanted?
Yep, I think that's fair call. 100,000 people in Australia's backyard, Melbourne Cricket Ground, the history and the traditions and the Coliseum with which it is, against a very good Australian team. And
I believe if we play our best, we can beat New Zealand tomorrow. I don't buy into the favourites or not favourites, or New Zealand have been the form team of the competition. New Zealand have beaten us once in this tournament. But I'm confident if we play our best, we can beat them tomorrow.
All right, so let's once again go across live to Boria Majumdar, who's got some fans with him. Boria, if you can hear me, what are the expectations of the fans that you have standing beside you?
Yeah, I'll actually ask them. I'll get you an Australian perspective, a New Zealand perspective, and an Indian perspective as well. What do you expect today? New Zealand has won the toss and batting first.
I think Australia should win, but the big winner today is cricket, and it's great for the world, and I'm just happy to be here with all my brothers and sisters.
Very nice. New Zealand.
Cricket unites all cultures. This is a dream run for New Zealand. Wish India was in the finals, but we'll do the job today for you.
Rooting for India.
Missing India in the final?
Yes, we have missed, no doubt about that. And because yesterday I was slightly emotional because when McCullum in the press conference has said he wants Indian fans to cheer for him. I think this is, yes, I am a fan. That's why I have mentioned also Indian fans cheer New Zealand for win, because this is the first time in the cricket history that an opponent captain has asked some country fan to support them.
You know, this is what it's all about. As you heard the gentleman say here, cricket's the winner. You know, New Zealand fans saying, you know, it's ultimately all about cricket. So that's what it is. Unites cultures, unites people, unites everybody from across the border. Indian fans in big numbers here, Himanshu. Big numbers. People are missing India, but it's one heck of a spectacle. It's the World Cup final. May the best team win. As far as I'm concerned, Michael Clarke's farewell match, New Zealand, perhaps the first time. What a contest it will be.
Right, Boria, stay with us. I'll come back to you in a bit. Nikhil, of course, the Kiwis will be playing outside the New Zealand, outside their home territory for the first time. Do you expect that to have an impact on their performance today?
In the first couple of overs, maybe, because the ball's not going to swing. I think now that they've won the toss, batting first, if it doesn't swing, they handle those first 7-8 overs of the Australian new ball pretty well. McCullum shouldn't be looking to get boundaries in the first 7-8 overs, you know, because if he gets out, things, I think, would push New Zealand back. The mantra when you're playing Australia in this World Cup has been handle the new ball well, the first 10 overs, then the middle overs you can go out there and capitalize. If you have wickets in hand in the last 10, you can get easily 90. The important thing, if you lose wickets in the first 10 overs, then you're always looking to play catch up. And that's been the case when you're playing in Australia. When you're playing in New Zealand, completely different case and scenario. And I'm sure Brendan McCullum, the other guys, they realize the rules. Also the fifth bowler for Australia, the fifth fielder in the 30-yard circle. All those, Himanshu, can only get capitalized if the New Zealand side handles the new ball well.
Nikhil, what do you think are since New Zealand are now batting first for the benefit of viewers, what do you think are the main scoring zones? What have been the main scoring zones so far for some of the top Kiwi batsmen in the World Cup, Brandon McCullum, Martin Guptill?
I think initially on with at least Brandon McCullum, he's not going to get anything, at a good length where he can be allowed to drive. He'll have to be scoring zones now would be square of the wicket. And Brandon McCullum is very, very strong. He likes to cut the ball, he likes to play the pull shot. But it's going to be interesting with the new ball, speeds of close to 150 kilometers an hour. So you've got to be a little careful. I think that's why I'm saying short selection from McCullum will be the key. He is not to get out in the first couple of overs.
Andrew Symonds has now joined us on the show and continuing our discussion from where we left it in the previous segment. Boria, you had a question for Andrew. Please go ahead.
Andrew, New Zealand has won the toss and batting first. I mean, does that set it up for you? I mean, Australia perhaps had their noses ahead. Home conditions, great day, great team. Does that set it up for you? And this emotionalism that we see here, Phil Hughes, could not have been better. The occasion has been set up. After New Zealand has won the toss, what's your opinion?
Oh, look, I think it's definitely game on now. If New Zealand can bat well and post a total 270 plus, it's definitely going to put Australia under pressure. In a final, whatever you get is what you get. And in a final, the opposition has to get it. So New Zealand have been given an opportunity here now with the toss to post a total and apply some finals pressure with some good batting. Bigger ground, obviously. It'd be interesting to see how they go about things in the middle overs and how they actually take on Mitchell Starc at the start, especially Brendan McCullum. But a fascinating contest. They'll be very...
That was my question actually, Andrew. How does Brendan McCullum deal with Mitchell Starc?
I think he'll try and deal with him in the usual way that he does. He'll try and attack him. And as an Australian, I hope he does, because I don't think he'll attack him with great success if he over-attacks him. But if he tends to attack the other bowlers less and pay Mitchell Starc the respect that he probably needs, the longer obviously Brendan McCullum bats, the more runs New Zealand are going to get, and the more difficult New Zealand will be. But a fascinating contest. Obviously Martin Guptill will be a man that Australia need to probably get out, because he's capable of batting for the full 50 overs. But a fascinating prospect, this whole game. I think it's one of those games that we're talking about it is we're just trying to guess what's going to happen. The best way to sort of see what happens is, I guess, to let the game unfold. But the first 5, 6, 8 overs will be fascinating.
All right. Thanks a lot, Boria, for those insights. Andrew, I had a question for you. Do you think the fact that New Zealand chose to bat first after winning the toss, do you agree with that decision? Do you think they made the right decision on this pitch?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In finals, I've always been a big believer in, if the wicket's good, bat first and then post a total. Then you're in control of your own destiny. If you bat well, you can really apply the pressure to the opposition. New Zealand bat well, and let's say they post 290, 295, 300. In a final, it's a big total. You've got to go out there and structure your whole innings very well to chase that down. And things have got to go well. Umpiring, run-outs, the opposition's fielding. You take all that out of the equation if you bat first. So that's why I've always believed batting first in the finals is the way forward.
And what do you think would be the key for the two sides now, and where do you think we can probably expect some turning points to come from here in this match?
Well, for me, I don't think the ball will swing long in Melbourne. So obviously the Kiwi bowlers, they've swung the ball in New Zealand. The ball swings there early on. In Australia, it might swing here for say 2, maybe 3 overs at each end with those 2 new balls. We'll soon find out. But if they can negotiate Mitchell Starc early on and then bat well through the middle and then launch at the end, as we've talked about for 4 weeks, that's the formula for the game. With that extra man inside the circle and then be able to attack the lesser bowlers in the middle and then launch at the end.
It's of course a big moment for Michael Clarke. You've played with him and you've played with him in a World Cup final as well. it's clearly he would expect the perfect farewell for sure. He would be wishing for one for sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't go into a World Cup final and want to lose it. I was very surprised actually that he actually announced his retirement before the game. Generally, the game's about what the team's doing and not an individual. And for him to announce that, I don't know why he's done that, but surprised me. Play the game and then at the end of it announce your retirement is generally the way that things go with that one. But you know, Michael's Michael, and he's got his own decisions and his own way, I suppose.
And of course, we remember the way Martin Crowe led his side in the '92 World Cup, the last time this event was held in Australia. And of course, the way Brendon McCullum has led the New Zealand side has also been phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, Brendon McCullum's been another modern style attacking captain. And I think with the way that the field restrictions are now, we've talked about all that throughout the course of this journey. You have to attack in the middle period. If you don't, and you don't take any wickets there, all the opposition just throw themselves at you in the last 15, 12 overs or so. And it's like a bad cut. It just bleeds and bleeds and bleeds. The total just gets out of control. So you've got to try and restrict the opposition in the middle period, so they can't. So you can actually be defensively attacking, so they can't launch at you and put this big total on you. So that's another sort of fascinating part of the game now, with the way the field restrictions are.
All right. Final two comments from the two of you. Your prediction for the eventual winner. Andrew, do I really need to ask that?
I'm going for Australia.
What about you, Nick?
Well, you know, initially before the start of the toss, it was 60-40 to Australia. Now that they won the toss, I'll say 50-50.
50-50 for both New Zealand and Australia?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting prediction there by Andrew and Nikhil. That's all we have on this show. News and updates continue on Headlines Today.